So hey guys, welcome to another Warframe video, and today we're gonna check out yet another melee weapon, and this time around it's gonna be Zaku's signature melee weapon, the Quassus Warfans. Now if you want to get your hands on this puppy, you first need to get the blueprint, which is a rare reward from either the tier 5 or Steel Path or Deimos bounties. And then you can simply build it in your foundry, though you will need 60 devolved Nemalon, 15 spinal core sections, 5 scintillant, and 1 Seriglass shard, which you can get from Grandmother for 20 Grandmother tokens. The Quassus requires at least Mastery rank 8 to use, and it does 230 damage per hit, 156.4 is slash, 46 is puncture, and 27.6 is impact. It has somewhat slow-ish attack speed of 0.833, it has very solid 30% crit chance and a standard 2x crit multiplier, somewhat decent range for its size of 1.7 meters, and okay-ish status chance of 12%. Now, just like a lot of the other weapons you can get on Deimos, the Quassus also comes with a unique mechanic where if you do a heavy attack, you throw out ethereal blades in a cone in front of you that force proc slash. These don't seem to scale with an awful lot of stuff, and the damage is somewhat low, but it's not necessarily impossible to build around them. And while I did end up using a more standard build in the end, I did play around with a bunch of different setups to try and make the ethereal knives viable, and I came up with something that wasn't half bad. It was kind of mediocre versus the Grenier unless I managed to hit a lot of headshots, because then you can take advantage of the headshot multiplier, which skyrockets the damage of your slash procs. It was actually pretty good versus the infestation, and it cut them down decently fast, especially if I managed to get a viral proc in there every now and then, because the knives can actually proc other status effects too. But it was unfortunately pretty rubbish versus the Corpus, though one thing to bear in mind here is that I do test against Corpus techs, which are some of the beefiest Corpus units because of their shield drones, which significantly boost their survivability through shield gating. So if you're not interested in a more standard build for the Quassus and you want something with a little bit more pizzazz, here is the build that I was using for the heavy attack throws, and it was performing pretty well, so feel free to refine it. But for the build that I actually ended up using on the Quassus, we have this, which requires 1 Forma, and it is a V. For the stance, well, there's only one, Slicing Feathers, though luckily it's a pretty good stance, so that's what we're gonna use there. Then we have Prime Pressure Point for damage, Blood Rise so we scale our crit chance as we build our combo counter, Organ Chatter for the crit damage, Berserker for a ton of attack speed, Drifting Contact for the combo duration and status chance, then Weeping Wound so we also scale our status chance as we build our combo counter, and we top it all off with Vicious Frost and Virulent Scourge for some additional status, because otherwise the status is a little bit low, and viral damage. Now as far as the performance is concerned, it's well about what you would expect from a melee weapon that does primarily slash damage. It has good crit and decent enough status, so it just shreds things very fast regardless of faction, level or enemy type. Now the ramp up is definitely on the harsher side of things, because if you don't have combo, you don't have the combo multiplier, you don't have crit, and you don't have status, so losing your combo is a bit of an oof. But once you're ramped up, there is nothing that can stand in your way. You will absolutely obliterate everything you touch. And I must say, I wasn't entirely sure if I wanted to go without reach or primed reach, but man, Slicing Feathers just feels good. The basic forward combo is super fluid and allows you to sprint, so it doesn't really matter that you don't have a ton of range. And now we come to the conclusion. So what do I actually think about the Quassus? Well, it is pretty expensive. You do need the Seriglass shard to get it done, and then you also need 5 scintillant, which isn't too bad anymore. It's actually fairly easy to get if you just run enough vaults. And the blueprint is pretty easy to get. I've got like 3 or 4 of them now, and I don't do too many high tier bounties. It performs about as well as you would expect from a melee weapon that does primarily slash damage, can go up into red crit tier, and has good enough status if you slap on Weeping Wounds. And it's a Warfan, and Warfans are just fun to use. The only thing that's holding it back in my eyes is the unique mechanic. I feel like the ethereal knives just need a little bit more scaling, or rather more options for scaling, because right now it feels like they're not really affected by much. So as it is right now, I think the Quassus is still pretty good, and I would recommend you give it a shot if you have the Grandmother tokens to get the Seriglass shard, of course, because that's definitely going to be the hardest thing to get for this thing. And if by chance they decide the ethereal knives do indeed deserve more scaling, then it's going to be an absolute must-have, because if they give them a little bit more scaling, it's going to be awesome. And that is pretty much it. So I thank you very much for watching. As always, guys, I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.